Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up this screen. All right, is LSU really worried about us? I think they are. We're going to talk about LSU and what we're going to need to do to stop them and win this game. And I'm sure they're going to be trying to stop our guy Hendon Hooker and all the weapons that we've got. We're also going to have an injury update. We're going to talk about our injuries, and they've got one that we need to talk about as well. So let's get into the LSU-UT ball game. All right, so is LSU really worried about us? Yeah, they definitely are. You need to understand we're basically the #1 offense in the country, and for good reason. Not only do we have a great quarterback, but our coach, look, he's a top offensive mind, and he's proven that over the last 2 years. It's by far the most dynamic offense in the country, and it's super fun to watch. And I'm ready to sign this guy to a 10-year deal that he can't get out of. But anyway, I know not everybody feels that way, and that's okay. But let's take a look at our offense. Yep, Tennessee football boasts the top offense in the nation. And yeah, that would worry me if I was going up against the top offense, especially the way they pushed around Florida. Florida never stopped them. Remember, Florida never stopped us one time. We either fumbled the ball or we scored every single time we touched the football. That's just a fact. Never happened before. That's never happened. Florida's always got a good defense, and there's nothing wrong with their defense this year other than we confused them. Our receivers can go in 2 different directions depending on how the defense sets up. That makes it really hard to play defense. Think about that. You're ready for a run down the sideline for a long pass. You're defended against that. Well, our receiver sees that and says, oh, okay, you're over here, and he cuts in. How do you defend that? And Hendon Hooker is reading the same defense that the wide receiver is reading. And if they're on the same page, it's brutal. It is absolutely deadly to try to stop that type of offense. And all the receivers are in that situation to where they have options. And their job is to read the coverage. And, of course, Hendon Hooker's doing the exact same thing. And this is Hendon's 2nd year in this system, so he's better at it. But you look at our offense. It says we're statistically the best in the country with an average of 559 yards in a game. I think Jeremy Pruitt, I think that was his average for the season. And you can also see Tennessee has a 100% scoring efficiency on 21 red zone attempts this year. That's fantastic. It says we're doing great with our rushing game in the red zone with 15 touchdowns on the ground. 15 touchdowns on the ground in the red zone. So when people say, oh, Tennessee's all about passing, wrong. Yeah, that if that surprises you, it shouldn't, because realize Hendon Hooker can run the ball as well and does. So it's really hard to stop Tennessee when they get in that red zone because you've got so many threats. You've got Hendon's legs, his arm, you've got those wide receivers, and then we've got quality running backs. And Tennessee currently has a 2nd-ranked passing offense in the country at 365 yards a game. And here's your numbers. Total offense, #1, 559 yards. Red zone offense, 21 trips, 15 touchdowns, the rest field goals and passing touchdowns. And then passing offense, #2. So 1, 1, and 2. Not too shabby.
If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about?
All right, so let's talk about LSU, what they do well. They've got a running quarterback, and we're going to take a look at his stats, but understand he didn't have a good game against Auburn. But you know what? You know, Richardson didn't have a good game against Florida, and then also I think it was Florida Southern. But then he had a great game against us. So this guy's actually good, okay? He throws the ball about like Richardson. He's not a great thrower of the ball, but he's pretty good. And he runs like the wind. The guy's super fast. He's not as big and strong as Richardson was, so he can be tackled. He can be sacked. And he's capable of making a mistake, but he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's not going to be wild with the ball or loose with it. You know, he does not throw interceptions. He's kind of like Hendon Hooker when it comes to that. So, you know, don't be looking for him to get stupid with the football. But he will run on you, and he'll probably run pretty well on us. Now, let's take a look at his stats. Now, again, granted, Auburn played well against him, and he didn't run all over him. His completions were 8 for 20, but his QBR was 61, which is not that bad, really, for 8 for 20, you know, because he didn't throw any interceptions. And then he ran the ball 16 times for 59 yards, which is not anything fantastic, but his overall stats are much better than that. Because if you look at 2022, he's 89 for 131, which is 68%. That's Hendon Hooker right there, basically, in a nutshell, 68%. So he's not going to be throwing the ball wildly. For 915 yards, 7-yard average, 6 TDs, and here's the important number. He has no interceptions. So he's actually played pretty darn well. He did not play well against Auburn. Auburn was inspired. So don't let these numbers fool you. This Jaden Daniels, I've watched him most of the year. He's pretty darn good. I think I've watched 3 games that he's been in, and this was the worst game he's had. And he wasn't horrible. He just didn't play his normal game. He'll probably play his normal game against us. It's usually how it plays out. As far as running the ball, they've got Josh Williams. This seems to be their primary ball carrier, and he's pretty good. He averaged 4 yards against Auburn. So he'll be seeing the ball a lot against us. But I can tell you, this is the guy that we've got to stop. Jaden Daniels is the guy that must be stopped for us to win that game. If he goes wild like Richardson did, it'll be a shootout, and then it's anybody's ball game. Now, we got super lucky in that the game is at noon Eastern time and 11 o'clock Central time, so it's 11 a.m., and it's not going to be as wild there. They're still great at home. They win most of their games at home, and it's a very good home court advantage, but it's not going to be near as loud. It will still be loud. Don't think it's going to be quiet as a church mouse in there. They're going to be screaming and yelling and all that, but it won't be totally wild because, look, they're not going to be fortified and loosened up, if you know what I mean.
You fellas been doing a bit of boozing, have you? Sucking back on Grandpa's old cough medicine?
No, oh no, sir.
Yeah, they won't have gotten into Grandpa's cough medicine, that's for sure. If they have, they'll just have gotten started. So that'll help us some for sure. But again, it's still Death Valley. And if you don't think they're worried about Tennessee, this is one of the Tigers' writers. Said LSU must play cleaner brand of football with top 10 Tennessee next up. Said Brian Kelly saw what everybody else did. LSU did not play close to its expectations, and yet Kelly and this team are still 4-1. And Kelly said it's like golf. He said there's no pictures on the scorecard. He's right about that because Auburn won that game, but the turnovers changed everything. That scoop and score that totally reversed the momentum of the game where they were down 17-0 was really the key play. Says LSU will have to play much cleaner brand of football in all 3 phases. They had a lot of penalties. You saw they didn't throw the ball very well. They didn't have a lot of yardage. It's really kind of shocking they won that game. It says if they have over 100 yards in penalties against Tennessee, the lead will turn into a lopsided outcome for the Volunteers, led by the high-powered offense that quarterback Hendon Hooker has operated under. LSU's secondary was burned multiple times against Auburn's offense, including several big plays, 53, 18, 61, 35, 31, 27, 25, etc. And that's right up our alley. That's what we do. Now, LSU didn't surrender a point the rest of the game in the second half, but a big part of that was turnovers. There was Auburn's down the red zone doing goofy plays where the running back was throwing instead of the quarterback and a bunch of other crap. I tell you, when you start doing these goofy plays in the red zone, that means you don't have any confidence in your offense. That's what that boils down to. You're like, well, we can't score our regular way because it's too hard, so we're just going to start doing goofball plays. And they usually blow up in your face. Ask South Carolina how that went when they let the running back throw last year against Tennessee. That was a debacle. Same thing happened to Auburn. But the big issue for us is our secondary, and our secondary's banged up, and that's not good because we're thin anyway, but then to have 2 guys down is not good. So let's take a look at our injury update. And everybody's been talking a lot about Cedric Tillman. He's very iffy for this ball game because he did have a procedure on his ankle, which was that high ankle sprain. So it's questionable whether he's going to be able to go against LSU. That'll be up to the team doctors and himself, but I'm thinking he'll probably be back for Alabama.
Alabama!
Would probably be my guess, but, you never know how people are going to heal and how they're going to respond. So Josh Heupel was hopeful that he'd be available for LSU, but, said there's a long ways to go to game time. Had a similar response for the status of cornerbacks Warren Burrell and D. Williams and running back Dylan Sampson, who have been out with injuries. We need all 3 of those guys back at 100%. That would be very helpful. Says we'll see where we get to when we get to next week. Said that's the advantage of a bye week, that we can see where we're at. I think Hendon Hooker's fine. He had a little upper body injury, but he stayed in the game and said he's fine. Said Hooker practiced last week and he was out. They said he looked good. Says Burrell started, of course, he started the first 2 games, but he's missed the past 2 games with an undisclosed injury. And then Williams, who was a junior college transfer, is yet to debut for Tennessee. And then Sampson, of course, he got injured as well. Says the Vols would like to be closer to full strength for their first SEC road game. said it's uncertain. They've coped reasonably well. Man, we've struggled in the secondary. We're fine at wide receiver. I'd love to have Cedric Tillman back, but we're okay without him. They said they had 25 players that played on defense, including 8 defensive backs against Florida. Deepening the rotation didn't slow Florida's air attack. Anthony Richardson passed for 453 yards on us. So that's why I'm not terribly confident about our secondary. We need to get Burrell and Williams back. Hopefully, after a bye week, they're well. But, we'll find out more over the coming days. So, yeah, LSU's definitely concerned, and they should be, because the reality is UT's put the word out that there's a new sheriff in town.
That's an attention getter.
That's right. Yeah, and we've gotten everybody's attention. That's for sure, by kicking Pittsburgh and Florida in the booty. And maybe we can do that at LSU. That would be nice. Oh, hey, you trying to have a show on LSU without Coach O? I done told you, Sports Talk J, that ain't happening, buddy. Look, I got a lot of time on my hands and got a lot of money. You want to talk about LSU? Oh, boy. Yeah, we're a little bit concerned about you down there, but we'll be all right, don't you? Well, you come down there to Baton Rouge, baby. We got plenty of problems for you down here. Oh, that crowd will be right. Don't you worry. We'll be ready to go come 11 a.m. Yeah, we'll just get up a little bit early, that's all. I can't believe you tried to have a show without me talking about LSU. Shoot, I ain't letting that happen. Good to see you there, Sports Talk J. Oh, well, you knew he'd show up. Man, I'm telling you, it's really hard to have an LSU show without Coach O. He loves to pop in. I don't know how he does that. I guess when you got $16 million, you can probably hack into anything you want. All right, folks, and that's LSU. Yeah, they're worried about us. They definitely are, and hopefully we'll be getting well for this game, get our defensive backs back, and we'll see about Cedric Tillman and our running back, Dylan. But I think their quarterback's okay. He banged his knee up in that last game, but they said no structural problem, so I fully expect him to be going 100%, Daniels. So, like I said, this is going to be a tough ball game down there in Baton Rouge, but I feel pretty good about it. Probably as good as I've ever felt going down there, and that's a tough place to play, that's for sure. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know to continue to cover the Vols. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Only been doing this a little over 2 months, and I could use some subscribers. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk J.